basically everything that Trump is talking about. I mean, it's truly amazing. They're all so worried, Ben, about upsetting their fearless leader, right? They're so afraid to say something that he will find not, to his liking, that they basically lie before these hearings. They make things up, and worse than even make things up, they're not even listening to the question. All they want to do is read off the talking points that they get on a daily basis. It's really very dangerous to democracy.
Well, let's be real. There's no longer a democracy in the United States of America. Democracy is dead. We're not, in my view, we're not in a constitutional crisis. There is no effective constitution right now to stop what Donald Trump's doing in the United States of America as of June 10th, 2025. The resistance and opposition still is strong. I have a great deal of confidence in the opposition and the resistance. Donald Trump is deeply unpopular, but in my view, the United States of America is no longer a democracy, no longer abides by a constitution. I really see no distinction, really none, between the United States and Russia, the United States and, say, Saudi Arabia right now, because Donald Trump says, I'm federalizing the National Guard. There's no lawful basis of it. He does it. And then you have all of the Republicans support it. They go, oh, it must be absolutely, a co-equal branch of government. Look, in Russia, they have a parliament, right? In China, they have a parliament. In North Korea, they have a parliament, right? They have people who show up and they pretend that they're, we got to vote. Are you going to vote with Putin? Yep. Are you going to vote with Kim Jong-un? They have parliaments. That's what our Republican Party is today. And, where Donald Trump wants to go with this is his big move coming up is to get rid of the midterms. Like, he doesn't want to have midterms. He doesn't want to have elections, in my view. That's what's on the horizon. And he was, in my view, and I'll ask you what you think, Cohen, I think that he thought early on that what he and Elon Musk were doing would be able to basically storm over everything and then he'd be able to control. He was met with opposition and resistance that he didn't expect. And then I think he kind of lost patience before his dictator parade. That's this weekend, by the way. Thunderstorm, 65% chance on the dictator parade. Thank you. And we'll see what happens there.
Right. The good Lord is watching down.
Well, and we'll go over what he said in this, bizarre press thing that he held today. He was talking about FEMA, and I think the purpose of it was so that Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, wanted to be like, don't worry, we're in hurricane season, but FEMA's going to be there for you. And then Donald Trump's like, FEMA's gone. We're getting rid of FEMA. But then he started talking about all this other stuff. And this was one of the most telling moments, I think, about what a lot of this is about. I'll get your take on it, Cohen, where Trump says, if you protest my military parade on this weekend, I'm coming after you. Here's what he said.
Celebrating big on Saturday. We're going to have a lot of, and if there's any protest that wants to come out, they will be met with very big force. By the way, for those people that want to protest, they're going to be met with very big force. And I haven't even heard about a protest, but, this is people that hate our country, but they will be met with very heavy force. Thank you very much, everyone.
If you protest,
so could you imagine you're going to go out there. By the way, it's the same day as the the No Kings, what do you call it?
No Kings
protests all around the country, including in Washington, D.C. So imagine this. The Constitution of the United States gives you the right to peacefully protest, to stand there with a sign, somewhat the same thing that Trump did, right, during the campaigns, right? The mass deportation now signs, the lock him up, lock her up sort of signs, the, drain the swamp signs. So you're going to go there, you're going to be like, fuck Trump sign. And the next thing you know, it's going to be met with force. I'm wondering whether or not there's actually some form of a mandate that Trump has given, whether it is to, DC police, to the National Guard, whether it's going to be to the Marines, to say, if you see a protester holding up a sign which is negative towards Trump, that you have the right to crack their skull. You know, I want to share something with you, Ben, and people don't know this case, but I was actually subpoenaed to testify in a case which was called Galizia. And it was Galizia versus Donald J. Trump. That case was all about a group of individuals, I believe it was of Mexican descent, who were protesting in front of Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue. And they were holding up a sign that was very negative towards Trump. And he sent somebody downstairs to one of his employees to grab the sign. Well, the employee did, grabbed it. In so grabbing, ended up banging the guy across the side of the head, got a hold of the sign, tore it in half. Well, let me be very clear. After my testimony, Galizia won the case, right? And it was he won the case, and it was determined that they violated his First Amendment rights. That's what you're going to see here. And I tell you this story so that you understand that this is a rerun of an old movie. I've seen this before, and we're going to see it again. And the problem that each and every one of us have to understand is that if it happens again, which we know it will just be the beginning of a confluence of these sort of protesters being assaulted, being detained, incarcerated, whatever may be the result, for exercising their First Amendment right to free speech and protest.
No, I also find it interesting, Cohen, how none of the corporate news had been covering. We were covering it. We're not corporate news, though. All of the protests that have been taking place, all peaceful protests across the country leading up to what transpired on Friday. But they will sure focus on the 4 Waymo vehicles that are on fire. They'll look at the bad actors, and there are bad actors. And let me be clear, anyone who's violent at the protest, anyone who breaks the law needs to be held accountable, needs to be condemned, needs to be arrested immediately. But that's a very, very tiny fraction of the peaceful protests that are actually happening. But the media goes right to it. They'll stage a reporter right by where the action is, and then they'll beam that image as though that's what's happening across the country or all over LA, to play into a narrative that this is what all of LA looks like, when it's a 0.00001% literally of the city of LA, yet alone the county of LA. And they play right into the kind of fascism gamification of it all. It reminds me of the media, the way they cover, I always think Jesse Waters looks like that guy from the Hunger Games, the dude with the big hair. But the way the Hunger Games media covers the games, to me, is how our corporate news covers Trump's fascism. And they gamify it in a way where they don't take a step back and go, what the hell are we doing? We're supposed to be the fourth estate. That's a dictator right there. And he is federalizing National Guard troops over 2 cars that are on fire or 4 cars that are on.
The best is you listen. You listen to, for example, like Fox News. And what they do is they show there's 2 guys on motorcycles holding a Mexican flag. And Jesse Waters or Laura Ingraham or one of the others, they're sitting there and they're like, look at the disrespect as LA is on fire. After Trump, of course, compares this one vehicle that these two guys in a motorcycle are driving around holding a Mexican flag. Of course, they turned around and said that it's a Palestinian flag, which, by the way, would make no difference. I don't give a crap what flag that you're riding around. It makes no difference.